Welcome back to Hoot. We're in the middle of chapter 15, and Roy is doing something interesting with Dana Matheson. He just mooned him and got Dana to chase him, and then told him that there was a carton of cigarettes hidden in Curly's trailer on the construction site of the Mother Paula. So he's got something up his sleeve. Curly made it through Friday night, though not without personal inconvenience. First thing Saturday morning, he drove to the hardware store and bought a sturdy new seat for the toilet in the trailer, plus a dozen jumbo rat traps. Then he stopped at the Blockbuster and got a movie in case the TV cable went out again. From there, he headed home, where his wife informed him that she would also need the pickup truck, since her mother was taking the other car to the bingo hall. Curly didn't like anyone else driving his pickup, so he was sulking when his wife dropped him off at the trailer. Before settling down in front of the TV, Curly took out his gun and made a quick tour of the property. Nothing appeared to have been disturbed, including the survey stakes. He began to believe that his presence was indeed in keeping the intruders away from the construction site. Tonight would be the true test. Without his pickup truck there, parking near the trailer, the place would appear empty and deserted, and maybe inviting. As he walked to the fence line, Curly was pleased not to come across a single cottonmouth moccasin. That meant that he could save his 5 remaining bullets for serious security threats, although he didn't want a repeat of the nerve-rattling fiasco with the field mouse. Determined to discourage uninvited rodents, Curly carefully baited the rat traps with peanut butter and placed them in strategic locations along the outside wall of the trailer. Around 5 o'clock, he nuked a frozen dinner and popped in a movie into the VCR. The turkey pot pie wasn't half bad, and the cherry strudel turned out to be surprisingly tasty. Curly didn't leave a crumb. Unfortunately, the movie was a disappointment. It was called The Last House on Which Boulevard 3, and one of the co-stars was none other than Kimberly Lou Dixon. A clerk at the Blockbuster had helped Curly find the film, which had been released several years earlier before Kimberly Lou Dixon signed on to the Mother Paula TV commercials. Curly guessed that it was her very first Hollywood role after retiring from beauty pageants. In the movie, Kimberly Lou played a pretty college cheerleader who got hexed into a witch and started boiling the star football players in a basement cauldron. Her hair was dyed fiery red for the part, and she wore a fake nose with a rubber wart on the tip of it. The acting was pretty lame. The special effects were cheesy, so Curly fast-forwarded to the end of the tape. In the final scene, the hunk college quarterback escaped from the cauldron and threw some sort of magic dust on Kimberly Lou Dixon, who turned from a witch back into a pretty cheerleader before collapsing in his arms. Then, as the quarterback was about to kiss her, she morphed into a dead iguana. Curly turned off the VCR in disgust. He decided that if he ever got to meet Kimberly Lou Dixon in person, he would not mention The Last House on Which Boulevard 3. He switched to cable and found a golf tournament, which made him drowsy. First prize was $1 million in a new Buick, but Curly could still not keep his eyes open. When he awoke, it was dark outside. A noise had startled him from his nap, but he wasn't sure what it was, and suddenly he heard it again. Snap. Instantly, a cry rang out, possibly human, but Curly wasn't sure. He muted the TV and grabbed for his gun. Something, an arm or a fist, thumped against the aluminum side of the trailer. Then came another snap, punctuated by a muffled profanity. Curly crept to the door and waited. His heart was thumping so hard he was afraid the intruder might hear it. As soon as the doorknob began to tickle, Curly went into action. He lowered his shoulder, let out a Marine-style roar, and crashed out of the trailer, snapping the door clear off its hinges. The intruder let out a cry as he hit the ground in a heap. Curly pinned him there with a heavy boot on his midsection. "Don't move! I won't! Curly lowered the gun barrel. By the light from the trailer, he could see that the burglar was just a kid. A large, lumpy kid. He had accidentally stumbled on the rat traps, 2 of which were attached crookedly to his sneakers. That had to hurt, Curly thought. Don't shoot me, the kid cried. Shut up. Curly stuck the .38 in his belt. What's your name, son? My name is Roy Eberhardt. Well, you're in deep doo-doo, Roy. Sorry, man, please don't call the cops, okay? The boy began to wiggle, so Curly pressed down harder with his boot. Looking across the lot, he noticed that the padlock on the gate had been broken with a heavy chunk of cinder block. You might have thought you were pretty slick, he said, sneaking in and out of here whenever you please. You and your smart sense of humor. The boy raised his head. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Roy. You're the one who yanked out all the survey stakes and put the gators in the porta-potties. What? You're crazy, man. You painted the cop car. No wonder you don't want to be calling the police. Curly leaned closer. What's your problem, boy? You got a gripe with Mother Paula's? To be honest, you look like a kid that could enjoy a good pancake. I do. I love pancakes. Well, what's the deal? Curly said. Why are you doing all this stuff? I've never been here before. Curly removed his boot from the kid's belly. Come on, kid, get up. The boy took his hand, but instead of letting Curly pull him to his feet, he yanked Curly to the ground. Curly managed to get one arm around the boy's neck, but he twisted free and hurled a handful of dirt into Curly's face. Just like in that stupid movie, Curly thought as he clawed miserably at his eyes, except I am not going to turn into a cheerleader. He cleared the crud from his vision just in time to see the boy run off, rat traps clattering like castanets on the toes of his shoes. Curly attempted to give chase, but he made it only about 5 steps before he tripped in an owl hole and fell flat. I'll get you, Roy, he hollered into the darkness. You're out of luck, mister. Officer David Delinko had Saturday off, which was fine. It had been a hectic week, culminating in that weird scene at the emergency room. The missing dog bite victim still had not been found or identified, though Officer Delinko now had a green shirt to match the torn sleeve he found at the fence on Mother Paula's construction site. The boy who'd fled the hospital must have left the shirt on the antenna of Officer Delinko's squad car, obviously as some kind of joke. Officer Delinko was tired of being the butt of such jokes, though he was grateful for the fresh clue. It suggested that the emergency room runaway was one of Mother Paula's vandals, and that young Roy Eberhardt knew more about the case than he was admitting. Once Officer Delinko figured that Roy's father would get to the bottom of the mystery, given his special background in interrogation. The policemen spent the afternoon watching baseball on television, but both Florida teams got creamed. The Devil Rays lost by 5 and the Marlins by 7. Around dinner time, he opened his refrigerator and discovered there was nothing to eat but 3 individually wrapped slices of Kraft processed cheese. Immediately, he embarked on a trip to the mini-mart for a frozen pizza. As was his new routine, Officer Delinko made a detour towards the Mother Paula's property. He still hoped to catch the vandals, whoever they were in the act, and if that happened, the captain and the sergeant would have little choice but to take him off desk duty and put him back on patrol again, with a glowing commendation for his file. Turning his squad car onto East Oriole, Officer Delinko wondered if the trained Rottweilers were guarding the Pancake House site tonight. In the event, it would be pointless for him to stop. Nobody would mess with those crazy dogs. In the distance, a bulky figure appeared in the middle of the road. It was advancing in an odd, halting gait. Officer Delinko braked his Crown Victoria and peered warily through the windshield. As the figure drew closer, passing through the glow of the streetlights, the policeman could see it was a husky teenage boy. The boy kept his head down and seemed to be in a hurry. Though he wasn't running in a normal way, it was more of a wobbly lurch. Each step made a sharp clacking sound that echoed on pavement. When the boy came into the range of the squad car headlights, Officer Delinko noticed a flat rectangular object attached to each of its sneakers. Something very strange was going on. The police officer flicked on the flashing blue lights and stepped out of the car. The surprised teenager halted and looked up. His pudgy chest was heaving, and his face was slick with sweat. Officer Delinko said, "Can I talk to you for a second, young man?" "Nope," answered the boy, turning to bolt. With rat traps on its feet, he didn't get far. Officer Delinko had no difficulty catching the boy and hustling him into the back seat of the police cruiser. And that's where we're going to stop.